The YG Acoustics Sonja Loudspeaker. YG Acoustics is one of the top 3 loudspeaker audio companies in the high-performance audio world today. The other 2 are Magico and Wilson, and each have their own attributes. Let's talk about reviewing loudspeakers. Loudspeakers are the most challenging product to review in all of high-performance audio. You have to have them located in exactly the right position in your listening room to bring out the best of each individual design. A planar loudspeaker is going to be in a different spot than a direct firing loudspeaker such as the Sonja. A loudspeaker such as the MBL 101E is going to be in a little bit different spot than the planar or the direct firing loudspeaker. That's challenge number 1, finding that spot. And it takes time. A loudspeaker review has to take at least 6 months if you're to properly evaluate all parameters of a loudspeaker. You have to test it with different speaker cable, different amplifiers, different source material to get your hands around what the sound characteristics are of the speaker under test. We received these loudspeakers in April of this year, and it's currently early December. You've had ample time to evaluate every sonic parameter of the loudspeaker. Its frequency response, its efficiency, its dispersion, its tonality, its sound staging, and its ability to deliver music continuously in your listening room. The YG family of loudspeakers is indeed a family of very revealing loudspeakers. YG is known for its exacting sound. This is not a soft-sounding loudspeaker. This is not a forgiving loudspeaker. This is what you feed into it is what you get out of it. If you have thin or brittle sounding solid state ahead of the YG Sonja, you're going to get thin or brittle sounding music. So it's what goes in, it's what goes out. We've evaluated the Sonja on a number of different amplifiers. Our AudioNet Max and Ypsilon Alias. Our classic tube amplifier is a rebuilt Conrad Johnson Premier 1. The AudioNet Max puts out 800 watts into 4 ohms. The Alias about 400. These are both ample amplifiers to drive the YGs. The Conrad Johnson puts out 200 whopping watts of tube power into 8 ohms. The rule of thumb for a tube amplifier versus a solid state amplifier is the solid state amplifier should have about double the power, rated power, into 8 ohms of the tube amplifier to give you about an approximate power match. And we're matching not just power and efficiency, but we're matching the phase angle of the loudspeaker and its impedance modulus. Now the YG loudspeaker, it dips down under 4 ohms into lower frequencies. So what do the Sonjas sound like in my 12 by 24 foot listening studio? Well, they're sitting in the exact same place as the Anats. I reviewed the Anats in the Absolute Sound magazine in February 2012. We kept the markings on the floor with little threads in our carpet. That's how we mark our speaker positions. And we placed the Sonjas in the exact same spot. Now the Anats took several months for them to open up and break in. The Sonjas, on the other hand, opened up within 2 weeks. That was the first difference. The second difference is the sound was a little bit more smoother with the Sonja during the initial break-in period than the Anat. Now both speakers employ the lower woofer module. They sit tall. They're perhaps a little too tall for this room. But you adjust to that. You adjust to having the tweeter up a little bit higher than other loudspeakers that you set up in a room of this size. It's kind of like sitting in the front row at a concert and the stage is up above eye level. It's kind of a nifty effect. The point of it is, I was able to directly compare the Anat to the Sonja. The Anat doesn't have the rounded edges of the Sonja. The Anat is an active speaker. It employs its own bass amplifiers to drive the woofers. The Sonja is passive, and that is the big difference, in my opinion. Employing an active woofer puts a little bit of added stress on your preamplifier. You have the outputs of your preamplifier going into your power amplifier for your tweeter and your mid-range units, and the outputs of your preamplifier going into a load of a power amplifier directly attached to the woofers. They're different, and they're being shared on the same output circuit. In addition to a slightly different load that the preamplifier is seeing is the signature of the amplifier on a passive speaker is being utilized from the bass all the way up to the treble. In an active speaker, that's not the case. The bass is going to have a slightly different signature than the mid-range or treble. And there's no getting around that because you have a different amplifier. Comparing the Anat to the Sonja, I'm getting a more coherent top-to-bottom presentation from the Sonja and a more realistic presentation between the bass and the mid-range because I'm using the same amplifier for both jobs. It's of one cloth, the sound that launches from the Sonja. The Anat, it's subtle, but it's of two separate cloths. The Anat gives you extremely focused imaging, as does the Sonja. But I believe that the rounded edges on the Sonja greatly affect from the baffle of the front of the speaker the presentation at the listening position. When sound comes out of the front of a speaker, it also propagates around the side of the speaker. Think of it as millions of vectors from math class. Remember the vectors line with the point? They go in that way and they bounce, and that way and they bounce. Well, when the sound launches from a loudspeaker, all of these vectors are coming out at you. And they bounce around and they come back on the loudspeaker itself. I believe that a curved baffle, more of a smooth baffle approach on a loudspeaker, will give you more of a smoother presentation at the listening position. All primary components of a YG Acoustics product are designed and manufactured at YG Acoustics. Now the motors for the speakers are custom made for them, but the cones are made at YG. The speaker comes in three parts. The Sonja 1.3 makes sense. The top part, the mid-range and tweeter unit, sits on top of the bass module, has little cups that receive it when you set it down. So when you set it in, it finds its proper position when you gently lower it. It's very heavy. The bass module that's the lower module, is attached to the primary base module. You strap on the back jumpers between the modules, the base modules, to accomplish a 1.3 setup. The fit and finish of the Sonja is simply extraordinary. If you've ever seen a CNC machine at work and watch its movements as it drills and mills, you'll get an idea of what goes in to a loudspeaker at this level. The founder of YG programs all of the CNC machines. His name is Yov Geva.